casket and vault panel. This panel is really like kind of close to my heart because I got duped into death care through the vault business. So I know a little bit about it, and this is exciting. And I'm going to let you all introduce yourself. And on this panel, ladies get to go first. So,
well, thanks.
And then we'll just go down the line. Okay. So, Jen, take it away.
All right. So I'm Jen Parvin. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Batesville. Been with Batesville 18 years. Started as a baby sales rep and have done lots of things since then.
And I'm Lance Ray. I'm with Wilbert. I've been with them 30 years, and I started out as a junior baby rep myself too. So yeah, that's my story.
Billy Eaton, Vice President at Matthews Aurora, duped just like Ryan.
Let's go.
Into this business 18 years ago, just like Jen. So I'm actually a 5th generation casket guy. So it's all I know.
That's crazy. 5th generation. How did you get duped?
I got in trouble once, and my dad said, "You're going to the casket warehouse to work for me." So I was kind of grounded and stuck.
It worked.
It worked.
I thought I was going to sell bank vaults, so that's how much I knew about death care. Awesome. All right, Jen, you mentioned that you've been in different roles at Batesville. Your role just recently changed again. Tell us about your new position and how you're now serving customers in different capacity.
Yeah, so I was a baby sales rep. I didn't get duped and I didn't get grounded, but I was once punished for being disrespectful to someone who worked in the industry as a child. So we'll save that story for another day. But I did start as a territory rep, worked my way in lots of different roles in the organization. For the last 7 years, I was the chief marketing officer, so I led product, innovation, pricing, got to build all the really cool things that we've brought to market in the last few years. But in January, I changed roles, and we sort of repositioned our executive team slightly differently. And I now oversee all of our customer-facing functions. So those reported into different executive leaders in the past. And so for us, understanding really who the customer is, what the customer needs, and how we can best service the customer, putting that all under one leader and really understanding all the way through the value chain how we can meet the needs of the market. So I have customer service, customer success, sales, business development, and then I have sort of an interesting connection to our field logistics team. So I know nothing about how trucks move or caskets move, but I know a lot about getting them to the customer at the right time. And so I work very closely with our VP of logistics, whose team interacts with our customers every single day. So super fun.
Well, that's great. That's an important role.
It is.
The customer is important. So you hear a lot of noise, probably in your role, from the profession. And so, Billy, I want to come to you with all the noise in death care right now. I feel like there's a lot of chatter in death care.
Absolutely.
What can funeral homes do to position themselves for success over the next 5 years? And I think you all could probably pipe in on this question as well.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. From my perspective, it all comes down to the family, and what does that mean? The arrangement conference. We're never going to perfect it, but how do we get as close as possible? And I truly feel like as an industry, we need guided arrangements, and we need a consistent arrangement. And I think 2 big issues that we're facing right now as an industry are, if I'm a funeral home owner, I'm worried about cash flow and I'm worried about staffing. And so can a successful arrangement conference help us with cash flow? I think absolutely. And I think all of us as vendors and thought leaders and people in the profession, we're trying to figure out how we can best perfect that arrangement so that so we can help drive revenue. The staffing issue that I talked about, you guys back me up on this. Whenever I'm talking to a funeral home customer, staffing comes up. How do I find good people? How do I find better people? And so because of that, a guided arrangement and perfecting the arrangement conference is vital because we have so many different people making arrangements. And if you asked a funeral home owner, what % of arrangements are good in your book, it's going to be a low percentage. So being able to replicate a good arrangement conference is good. And so, how do we do that as a partner? We promote technology, we promote tools, we promote training and education to help that arrangement conference be successful.
What have you found? Is there a secret sauce to what's working?
So we're finding that technology helps a great deal because you can help replicate a successful arrangement. So like we have a tool called Arranger that doesn't let you skip any steps, doesn't let you not promote a specific product. It also is able to track the performance of that Arranger. Excuse me. Sorry, got a little parched there.
You're all right. You're good.
So we're finding that technology can play a great role in that.
Okay. Lance, you guys doing anything with technology in the arrangement room?
Oh, not yet. We have some stuff coming up soon. I think it'll be released out at NFDA.
Okay.
One of the things we think is the family needs to be educated before they come in the funeral home. So many consumers, the consumer's so smart these days. Everybody's got their technology in their hand at home. They're researching it, and the last thing as a funeral director you want is a family to come in and know more about your product than you do. So we want that family coming in educated, maybe not knowing everything, but at least having an idea, at least for our part. Obviously we have 4 different brands, but on the Vault side, that's probably the most misunderstood product. People usually understand they're going to buy a casket,
Yeah.
and they know if they like a metal or wood. But when you're a funeral director, and I know this from when I was a funeral director, and you say, they've picked the casket, and now you're going to pick out the vault. They're just so baffled by the concept of, what are you talking about? It's the end of the arrangement. They've got bright lights on them. They're tired. They've been up all night, and now you're going to hit them with one more product. So we feel that the burial vault is probably something that, as a funeral director, you could probably spend more time on educating the family through videos or training.
You're so right, Lance, because I think Foresight did a study where I think the industry thinks that 75% of our consumers are educated on our industry, and the survey came back that about 25%
Yeah.
of families actually felt like they knew what was going on.
Yeah, I think there's a huge part in education. They don't know, and we have some research that says, and they rely on the funeral director
Yeah.
to help guide that conversation. And so I think technology is a huge part of it. Education is a huge part of it. I think the biggest thing is we've got to be open to change. So the way that we've always done it is not how we can do it. So Billy talks about staffing. So the frightening thing on staffing is half the funeral directors that are making arrangements today can retire in the next few years. So we think we've got a staffing issue now. We're going to have a real staffing issue when those folks retire. And we know that consumers are looking to interact in our industry, similar to how they buy everything else. So they have the ability to look at product and review product, online. Understanding what are the things that they have to purchase are absolutely important. So a guided arrangement's important. Understanding how you can go through all of those steps every time and then take it to a step further to help them understand what's possible. So for us, right, we've spent a lot of money on digital tools to help really enable the family to create product that's meaningful for their loved one. And so it's not just here's what you're going to have to buy and here's the steps that you have to do it, but most importantly, how you can make it your own. And so the ability to kind of design, create, and really make things that represent whatever that life lived was is going to really transform where we go. But to be able to do that, we have to change the environment in which they shop, for lack of a better term. I catch a lot of flack when I say that, but the merchandise and selection area is important. And then you also have to make sure that the family can truly create something when they leave. They're like, I have done something that's unique for my mom or unique for my dad.
I think that's great. I think the point of the consumer, I always say we have the most curious consumer that we've ever had. And we could say that every year, but we also have the most misinformed consumer that we've ever had because they have so many pieces of information at their fingertips that they're not getting educated from the right places on death care. And I think that falls back on funeral home responsibility, supplier responsibility to educate And so I love technology in the arrangement room. Big fan of that. So Jen, I want to ask you on the technology side, what is you said change. So having the tools in place is great, but there has to be implementation of the tools to get it to work.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday. I was talking to some folks, and so it's one thing to say, hey, we've created all these great tools, or we've changed the environment, or we want to, as suppliers and as an industry, change the way that families interact. But it does take ongoing training, and quite honestly, even some top-down management to build out standard work and standard processes to say, this is the experience that we want every family to go through. Here's the way that we're going to ensure that every family has that experience. You know, I spend a lot of time on airplanes. I always joke on the aisle. When I'm on the aisle, people ask me what I do, and I tell them, and they're like, I'm going to get cremated, and I don't need your product. And then I get to spend the next hour and a half explaining to them all the things that they, need from a funeral service opportunity. And oftentimes what I hear them say is, well, my mom got cremated or my dad got cremated, and I didn't know those options were available. And so it's one thing to say we have technology. It's another thing to say we have products. It's another thing to say we, change the merchandise area or the merchandise experience. But if we don't ensure that every funeral director that's meeting with families understands how to use all of those tools, the value of using those tools, and being able to really interact and communicate with the family, it's all for naught. And so there is a top leadership perspective that has to really change in the industry as well.
Billy, have you found a trick to get funeral homes to actually use the tools that you're developing?
I mean, I find that our sales team is underutilized. And when I say that, funeral homes have so much going on, right? And whether they're large or small or somewhere in the middle, there's a million things going on every day, every week there. And training their staff, I don't think they're carving out the time to do that all the time because there's more important priorities that are going on. So utilizing all of our, as a vendor, we all have sales teams out there. We have people in the field. Utilize those folks. Let us train your folks. Let us, spend time with your team so that we can, help them step up their game.
How are you guys handling training?
On the burial vault side, it's a struggle. I mean, we have a WAVE system. It's the Wilbert Assured Educational Video. It's a QR code system. A family could click on it, watch it. We also have like a video type system that sets up on the vault display. But we have found tremendous that whenever we do training, and there's casket training and then there's vault training, we see a huge uptake and the consumer buying something protective versus non-protective. And we did a research a few years back that actually proved it out, that if a family knew the difference between an unlined and lined vault or protective unit, 87% would have picked a protective unit. And you both would agree with me that if right now on the vault side, 50% of families buy a concrete box. If both Batesville, Matthews, and even on our end on Astral, if they all bought 50% cloth-covered caskets, every funeral director in the United States would go crazy. They would not accept that statistic. So education is the key. And whenever we do training, the sales go up, and about 6 months later, they go down. So I would encourage, if you're a funeral home out there, role play, ask your funeral director, and all the funeral directors out there are going to hate this, but role play with your boss. When I was wanting to learn about vaults as a young apprentice, I asked my boss, hey, can you show me how to present a vault? He would not show me how to present a vault. And I finally figured it out. He did not understand the differences enough to teach me.
Wow.
So
wow.
It's a huge thing. And families don't want to buy concrete. They want to buy protection.
Yeah.
The biggest miss on training is people think it's a one-time event. And it's got to be repetitive. It's got to be consistent. And it's not a set it and forget it thing. It's got to be
Continual.
Yep.
I think we talked about technology in the arrangement office and kind of creating that guided process. So role play is huge. Everyone hates it. We do it with our sales team, and I know they cringe anytime we get together, but practicing is incredibly important. But also there's a ton of resources. So I saw in the chat someone said, like, make an online community where online training is available. So if you don't have it, we have something like that. There's also, whether it's events like this, there's tons of webinars in the industry. There's local support across all three of these companies for sure. But I'm a huge proponent of you have to also own your own development. And so
great.
take, the bull by the horns personally, right? And if you don't have the resources or you don't have the leader or you don't have the manager, right, reach out to any one of us. Reach out to your local support. Send an email up to, whatever it is, info@Batesville. We'll connect you to those online resources because being a student of your craft allows you to truly excel. And when you understand what you're doing, you can create, the opportunity to really listen in the arrangement conference and communicate with the family versus trying to think through like, oh, what's the next thing I have to tell someone? What's the next thing I have to remember? And to do that, you have to practice.
It's great. All right, I want to shift gears a little bit. I think we could talk about training all day long and what works, what doesn't work, how to do it well. And what I love is all three companies up here have resources for training. Like there is absolutely no excuse anymore to be uneducated on the product that you're offering families and the resources to educate your families when they come into the funeral home. So Lance, I want to ask you a question about consolidation. We talked about it yesterday on the finance panel. A lot of consolidation happening in death care. That's predicted to rise. How do you think that affects casket vault manufacturers, suppliers as consolidation continues to grow? And there's some stats that predict, what percentage of funeral homes will be owned by consolidation by 2030.
Yeah, so every morning I wake up, I flip on some news channel, whether it be your channel or a competing channel, and I think every morning there's a new acquisition. Parklawn buys this, North Star buys this, SCI buys this. So I think by 2030 it'll be on the low end, maybe 35% consolidation, on the high end, 45%. But the other part about this is they're going to be by probably like 50 to 60%, I think, of the call volume, not necessarily funeral homes, because they're buying the big properties. Now, for an independent funeral home, what does that mean for you? You just got to focus, obviously, heavy on your community involvement and what makes you different, what makes you unique, and just being relevant in your community, that the family knows who you are, that you're the owner. But I think from a supply side, it just means we got to be smarter for independent and consolidators on sourcing the right products and making sure that we give you as a funeral home owner the right merchandise to help you succeed in a time that obviously cremation's growing. I saw a statistic that between 2020 and 2025, 27% of all funeral homes closed.
Really?
So
Wow.
yeah, so we went from 20,000 funeral homes down to 15,000, and at that same time, cremation went up like 150%. So there's a huge shift, and so we just got to learn from maybe people on the East Coast and West Coast how to handle that cremation, how to handle if you're an independent and you've got a consolidator come in, how do you come into that? But the reality is 50% of all funeral homes are going to change hands in the next 5 years, because there's no future ownership. People don't have a family member to pass them down to, or they don't have an exit strategy.
Pre-need program becomes so vital at that point, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we'll continue to see consolidation, right? It's in every industry. This isn't unique to funeral service. I'm a big proponent, though, of everyone has to play their own game, right? So the big consolidators, they have business strategies, they have goals that they're trying to achieve. The independent funeral home operator needs to have that same business strategy, right? What are the goals? What are the profit targets that I need? What do I want? What do I want my reach in my community to be? I think rather than worrying about what's happening around you, it's really sitting down and saying, where do I want to be in 5 years? And if you want to be, acquired, then there's a business strategy for that. If you say, no, I want to be the leader in my community, there's a business strategy for that. And so it's important to really understand and kind of set goals and understand what are the necessary levers within the business to pull to achieve those goals.
Agree.
All right, one of the things you all have in common is you create product that funeral homes have to sell to a consumer, and it's product that a consumer needs, period. So there was a question that was submitted that I want to ask all of you. and it is what products are growing in popularity that funeral homes may not be promoting enough.
I'll take it.
Rock, go.
Rocky. I don't think there is a product that either one of us are going to develop, whether it be a casket panel, a new personalization on vault. I think we or funeral homes need to develop technology, education to the consumer. It's everything. If they don't, we're all learning about things. We all get online and we look at stuff. We want to know prices. I'm in town, right? I'm looking at a restaurant and I'm picking out choices where to go. Number one choice on your list that you gave us, no prices on the menu. I didn't pick that place because I didn't know what I was getting into. So I picked the number 3
It was
place.
probably dope and you missed out.
Dope, for sure.
See, I told you I worked that word in.
So yeah, it's technology for me. I think
Okay.
we can come out with all the cool gadgets and all the stuff, but families want service and they want to understand what they're buying.
That's great.
I think a silent competitor that every funeral home is facing is, you can call it Amazon, third party, whatever you want to call it. And families are finding products available from other sources other than your funeral home. So I think having a large breadth of product and having some unique things will help retain some of that business, especially on the cremation side, right? Like when you think of an urn, what is the shape that pops in your head?
Yeah, yeah.
An urn.
It's an urn, right?
That's right.
And so
Looks like
on,
an urn.
on the cremation side, for sure, having unique things that the family is not going to find at a fraction of the price somewhere else. I think that's something that is totally underutilized, and I think that's something that we need to focus on. So if you walk into a selection room, an arrangement room, or wherever you have your display in your funeral home, you really got to think about what the family sees, how they perceive that, and how that compares to what they're going to find on their smartphone. Because having some unique items in there that they're not going to find elsewhere, I think will help you drive revenue on that regard.
I agree. I've told our cremation product team for years, right? Like the cremation product line should be refreshed completely every probably 3 to 4 years. If you go into a Restoration Hardware and they're still selling what they sold in 2022, it is totally out of style. And so particularly the cremation consumer is a little more in tune to kind of modern trends. And so being able to adopt those is going to be really important. When you said, what's the one thing that's being undersold?
Undersold.
I don't know that I would say one thing. Can I say everything?
Yeah,
Because
that's great.
there's
That's a good
so,
answer.
but I mean, there's so many times where it's like, I didn't know I could have kind of custom programs in stationery that really are meaningful keepsakes, not the 3-ring binder that has like a bunch of names written in cursive that grandkids are never going to be able to read. Or I didn't know that, my urn doesn't have to be shaped like an urn and instead it can have a fully laser engraved picture of my mom with her grandchildren sitting in the beach, the place she loves most. I didn't know that, the casket could possibly have multiple interior designs that allow my loved one to, favorite color is blue. Okay, well, how do we put a blue accent in there? And so often, so much of that time in the arrangement conference is spent on what was your mom's name? What was her birthday? What was her address? What was give me her 3 oldest cousins, sisters, brothers, whatever. So much of that time is spent on data collection and not truly spending the time to understand what made that person unique, which then enables the funeral director to present things that are really unique and meaningful. I saw in the chat someone said, how do you spend time listening to understand, not just to listen?
That's great.
And so if you really spend the time in the arrangement conference listening to understand, every product is undersold in a lot of ways because, again, in my little airplane survey, 75% of people I talk to don't even know half the stuff that we as an industry spend millions of dollars creating.
You should podcast and record some of these conversations on the airplane. It could be great consumer research because I think that all 3 of your companies are building and creating products, but we are very disconnected from the consumer and what the consumer actually wants. I feel like we build product that we hope funeral homes sell based on their comfort level versus what the consumer would actually want to buy. So I think that's one thing. I want to kind of connect some dots and bring it around full circle.
Before we get too
Yeah,
far, we're
go.
talking about some of the products. like Jen said, some of the products people don't know. If anyone knows my story, in the last 4 years, I've buried 3 of my family members, both my parents and my brother. So having been the funeral director, it's kind of like the funeral director almost expects me to make the arrangements.
Yeah.
So when we went to the graveside, they saw my dad's custom legacy top, burial vault top, and all the people that were in attendance were like, wow, you must have got that special because you worked for Wilbert. It's like, no, everybody can get
Everybody.
this. And then the same thing goes with the thumbprints, like whether it be the Love Tala thumbprints or the Thumbies. That's the thing that my mom was undersold, like Jen said.
Yeah.
It was on display. I had to mention it to the funeral director, and my mom's like, definitely wanted one. And it was their most prized keepsake, because at the end of the game, you bury the person, you don't keep the vault, you don't keep the casket, you keep the register book, but what does a family really have to take away?
It's great. It's great. Well, we've talked about, we started the conversation with training. The word educate and education has been dropped in the chat a lot. And I think that that is part of the equation of why somebody doesn't buy a specific product. And so you're all developing tools to try to educate. We do a lot of research on understanding how funeral homes present product, because when we go into a funeral home and create content for them, product is never part of their strategy on their own. Like, they don't come up with, like, let's talk about vaults, let's talk about caskets, let's talk about urns or jewelry. What we know from an engagement standpoint, if we're looking at the consumer and we're engaging over 8 million consumers a month over the age of 55, anytime we put product in a social media post, engagement goes up 75%. So the consumer wants it. The consumer wants to know what's available. We sat down with a funeral director that has a very, very high average of casket sale, top 1% in the United States. Not volume, but purchase price. And I said, how do you do this? You're a small funeral home in the middle of nowhere. You're only serving 75 families a year, but you're in the top 1% in quality of caskets sold. They spend over an hour educating the family of every single option that's available in their arrangement room. They use a digital tool, then they go into the arrangement room and actually show the physical product. And he said, we don't ever sell anything. The consumer just, now that they have all the information, and so I look at it like in a 75 call firm, they've got an hour to spend. In a 2,500 call firm, you've got 45 minutes, pass the family along. Like, how important is the education? Like, at what point does a funeral home have to take personal responsibility and go, you know what, if we want to sell better product, it's not necessarily on the manufacturer to create better product, because the product's there, it's on us to educate the family. And so you're all developing tools to educate. One of the questions was, what's the most innovative product that's being developed that we don't know about yet? I want to flip that a little bit. And what do you all think is the most underutilized tool that you've built that funeral homes aren't using to educate the family that would dramatically increase the education the family would have around product that's available if they just utilized it?
I'll start. I think we launched it at NFDA 2 years ago, but the digital showroom, we spent millions of dollars partnering with a third-party outside vendor. So we've spent a lot of time looking outside of funeral service to say, what are other industries doing to kind of create those experiences for families, and how do we bring that technology, how do we bring that environment into funeral service? And so for us, the digital showroom is by far the most underutilized tool we've created. And not in a sense that, like, yeah, funeral directors go in there and they'll show a product to a family and they'll send it and they'll order it and it'll be all efficient. Where they're missing the opportunity is truly the opportunity to kind of collaborate and co-create, where the family then walks away with something that's truly their mom's, dad's, brother, sister, cousin, whatever. I think I know who that funeral director is that you're talking about. And it is because they take the time to listen and understand and then help guide, back to that guided process, guide the family along the path of, you told me so-and-so liked this, or you told me so-and-so liked that. Let me show you how that can come to life. And when someone visually sees how something comes to life, then they understand it. It's the same reason why Crate and Barrel has, you can pick an orange sofa and then you can see the orange sofa in your living room before you buy it. because as consumers, we truly need to understand what is it that we're picking and what is it that we're buying. And so for us, it's like we've created the tools that are pulled from the outside of the industry in, because that's what consumers are used to using in their real life every single day. But if the funeral director is not confident in opening that tool and sharing it with the family, and the amazing thing is when you share it with the family, they know how to use it. And so then they start ideating all these super cool things that make their job really easy. And so it really is, bringing them to the opportunity to create something meaningful.
Anything
On
to
our,
add?
yeah, our end, it's the QR code that I talked about earlier. If you have low vault averages, or you're selling almost all concrete boxes, if you would take that opportunity to try that. We've all had to click the QR code when you go to a restaurant or you go to check in at some event. It's all QR code based. So we have found that it's about a 1.5 minute long video that the family can watch. It could be on your website. It could be on the back of your business card. It could be at a first call package, is what I would call it, when you go to pick up the deceased at the hospital, the home, or whatever. You could leave them with an informational thing, because when it happens, the family comes in and they always say, hey, the funeral director called, wants to know what time we want to come in to pick out a casket. And this vault thing is just the unknown, the untapped revenue source for funeral homes. And we can maximize all the showrooms and do all the things to bring the most revenue we can out of a casket. But when you step over and you sell that family a concrete box, you're doing them a disjustice if they don't know what they're buying. And literally, what do you got, like a minute to spend $3,000 to $5,000 on a vault, and you have no background of education?
Yeah.
I think all of us on this panel would say we've never bought anything for $5,000 for 30 seconds of knowledge.
It's very true. Very true.
You got me thinking a little bit. So we have an uneducated consumer because we have some uneducated people making arrangements. And don't blow me up in the chat.
They're coming
like,
for
wow.
it.
Here we
You're
go.
cooked. You're true.
But that's the
True.
reality with the staffing concerns, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
so if I'm a funeral director and I'm meeting with a family and I'm not confident in everything that I'm talking about,
great.
you're hoping the
great.
family doesn't ask a question that makes you look silly.
Yep.
So imagine going to meet with your attorney or your doctor and you ask them a question, they're like, I'm not sure. It's like, as a
Don't
funeral
disagree.
director, you need to be the expert in the room. And if you have products in there that you're not fully confident explaining and talking about the value of those, you're going to hope the family doesn't ask about them, because you don't want to look silly, right? And so you have to have an educated funeral director that's following the same process. And that's up to, yes, you're right. The funeral home has to own that. But us as a partner, we have to play a vital role in that, and making sure that the staff knows what they're talking about, so that they can explain things to the family to help educate them. Because if they're sitting in that arrangement room being like, I really hope they don't ask me about the personalized jewelry because I don't know how to answer that question.
Which is absolutely going to alter what you show, how you show
Yes.
it, how you run your arrangement, like the whole thing.
Well, when I
And the confidence in which you
Sorry, I
talk
didn't mean
about it.
Yes.
Like, you won't talk
Yeah,
about it
yeah.
confidently if you don't know.
That's right.
When I asked the funeral director for the thumbprint information, he handed me the brochure and said, you can go online. And I think that was mainly because he knew I was in the industry. But
I don't know.
yeah,
I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't,
but it was a huge learning opportunity for me to see what it was like to be on the other side of the table.
When I visit funeral homes, we don't sit in an office. We don't do anything. We go in the selection room, because that's where we hang out. That's where we talk. That's where success happens. So it's like, okay, walk me through how you present this to families. Walk me through these different products. And if there's shortcomings there, it's my role to fill them in on that education piece so that they can explain it to the families. If they don't know the answers, the family's not going to get the answers, and they're going to default to the lowest price possible, and the funeral home's going to miss out.
Okay, bringing up pricing, how important do you think transparent pricing is, whether it's from a supplier to a funeral home or funeral home to the customer?
I'll go, it's 100%. I didn't go to that restaurant because they didn't give me pricing.
It's just like I gave you an example on
I
that.
gave you an example. No, it's 100%. I mean, where was I the other day? I was looking at a shirt, I think, and there's no pricing. And I'm like, I was digging around trying to find it. It's like they hide it from you.
Yeah.
And we all are smart enough to know price isn't always the option. It's a good value. I've been known to buy the nicest stuff if I want, but I want to understand why it's more expensive than the other stuff. So
That's great. Yeah.
I think pricing is available very widely. And Billy talked about what they can pull up on their iPhone or cell phone or whatever. The reality is they're going to immediately go to Amazon, Titan, Costco, Walmart, whatever that is, right? And so if you can't confidently explain why yours is different, or the consumer can't easily find it, they assume you're trying to hide something. And sadly, then they walk in from a defensive posture the moment they walk into your business. And so how do you enable the consumer to capture the information that they want? And being in this industry, right, I understand that the pricing isn't always as easy to understand on a GPL or a CPL. And so it's easy to just say, well, this is, $1,800 on Amazon or whatever. But making sure that it's available so they can start to understand. And then when they call to ask, making sure, back to training, making sure that the person that is providing that information on the phone is equipped to really seek to understand. When they call and say, what's the cost of the cremation? There needs to be 4 or 5 questions of, well, have you thought about this? Or what about that? Or what type of this? Or when do you want that? Because the family only knows to call and ask the one thing they know. The problem is they probably need to know 5 or 6 other things, and they don't know. And if we just give them it's $2,200, and they're comparing to the billboard that says $995, they're going to hang up and, again, miss that opportunity, and they're going to, once again, be the person sitting on the airplane next to me.
That's right. That's right.
In almost every buying experience in our life, we know what's what.
Yeah.
And having hidden pricing is kind of a scary, concept. But as I talked about with our software, Arranger, that even gives you like a running total of the selections you're making so the family knows where they stand and where things are going. If you're making an arrangement and the family has no idea what this costs, and at the end of it, it's like, okay, well, here it is.
Yeah.
That's trouble. So using our software, you can also see the running total so that you're making selections and you're finding things that are, fit within your budget.
It's great.
No
points.
surprises.
I mean, we don't make uneducated purchases ever. Like, even if it's a pack of gum, you know how much the pack of gum is.
Correct.
It's $1.29. You're gonna know before you go to the cash register. So, I think that there's so much disconnect in how we operate inside of a funeral home that's not relevant to the normal buying pattern of a consumer. Every other profession educates and over-educates and over-explains repetitively, and I think we misconstrue education for selling, and we don't want to sell, so then we don't educate. And so that has been it's interesting how just training and education became the dominated topic amongst manufacturers. But it's so true. So I want to take the last 7 minutes on this panel and give you all the opportunity to kind of lay the groundwork for where Matthews is going, where Wilbert's going, where Batesville's going, what's coming in the future. Is there anything new coming that you can talk about, or kind of what's your landscape outlook on death care? And we'll go ladies first again. Jen, start with you.
Okay, thanks. No, where Batesville's going. So we've, like I said, been super busy with new things. And so in my new role, the most important thing is how do we bring all of those solutions to customers? And so these things that we just talked about today, right, around how do we make sure that funeral directors are educated and comfortable and capable to have these conversations is really kind of our focus, right? So, my team now is focused on, we have lots of solutions in the market. Those solutions are creating significant profitability for customers that are embracing them. $300, $400, $500, $700, increases to the bottom line just on a single line. Not adding if you start, adding all the things that we aren't selling that we talked about before. And so significant increases there. And so now where we're really focused is how are we driving that into the market more broadly? So my team's out. How are we talking to funeral directors? How are we driving engagement? How are we working with families? And then most importantly, how are we getting that feedback of what's working and what's not working and making changes? So we have some things in the roadmap that I won't talk about publicly, but I will say, I think the thing that we're most focused on is the things that we have in market today are creating significant results. They're creating significant improvement for consumers. and all of that just kind of raises the waterline. I'll give you guys an example. I think last year when we were here, we talked about the new selection room. And so that's been in market, I think, for 18 months now. And one of my favorite stories is no one wants to buy anything that we sell. Like, quite honestly, when we tell people what we do, they're like, I don't ever want to have to buy anything from you. Sadly, everyone will at some point. And I thought it was really interesting. We had a customer that had the old experience, cuts, buttons, whatever you want to call them on the wall. And then the new environment that we've created. And a consumer was walking through the funeral home, and they had their old selection room and their new selection room still in place. And the consumer walked by the new selection room, had just cremation product. They were a burial family. And they walked in and they looked around and they were all excited. And the funeral director's, oh, yeah, this is like cremation product, but we're going to go look at the burial product, so come with me. So they went over to look at the burial product, and the consumer actually said to the funeral director, can we go back to that other room? Because it's a better experience.
Yeah.
It's a better place to be. I'm more comfortable in this environment. Now, of course, everyone's like, oh my gosh, that was the burial family that's going to go to a cremation. Don't anyone panic. They went back. They had a full service cremation. They had an embalming. They bought a casket. They had a visitation. They had a memorial service. They bought an urn. They bought an urn vault. They buried the urn. They had cemetery property. And I even think they bought one of your bronze markers. So
Perfect.
You're welcome. But I say all of that to say, right, there are so many tools at the fingertips of the industry today. And if we just start to embrace the things that have been created, they can transform. And that's a big word, but truly transform the experience that the consumer is interacting with.
That's great.
On the Wilbert side, I think we want to develop, or we are developing, technology that allow that family to educate themselves and to help funeral directors present products. We believe that if a family comes in with more education, if you're the type of funeral director who does not want to sell, maybe they will come in educated. So it's not something where we're trying to go around a funeral home. We're trying to get that family educated because everyone knows what a casket is. Nobody knows what a vault is. And then on a corporate level, some may have heard like Wilbert selling some of their locations. We're not selling them. We're selling them back to the family-owned licensees, almost like a Chick-fil-A. We were talking about Chick-fil-A earlier. Thanks for the breakfast, Ryan.
Yeah.
How their model is
First financial
family-owned. We just believe that as a corporation, we still want to be Wilbert corporate, but family-owned licensees throughout the United States are going to better serve funeral directors. So we're not some kind of a financial issue or something like that, like the rumors go. It's simply a matter of we feel that the industry, funeral directors, will be better served by locally family-owned licensees that are in the community, understand the network, understand the whole big picture.
That's great.
I kind of touched on product breadth earlier, but I think Matthews has proven how dedicated we are to the death care industry. And so, Matthews Aurora, we take care of everything within the funeral home, right? Outside of that, we have granite, we have bronze, we have crematories, we have Dodge, we have all these different things, and we're wholly focused on that. Within Matthews Aurora specifically, I think product breadth is so significant because of the gap between the average revenue per call on a burial versus a cremation. There's such a dramatic drop there. So how, especially on the cremation side, do we add products that can help raise that average revenue per call? And it's through personalized products, through jewelry, it's through stationery, it's through unique urns that families can't find for $95 online. We really have a strong focus on that. The second thing I'll mention is, I'm not going to try to hijack yesterday's, AI panel because I'm not the expert there. But we rolled out an AI tool that what we say is helps the funeral director put the pen down, reconnect with that family instead of being so task-oriented. Name, date of birth, all these things. Put the pen down. Kind of AI assist tool to help just connect with that family, talk about that loved one, and let AI do the work for you on the administrative side. So I guess those would kind of be my two highlights.
Love it. Well, this is a great panel. I feel like this conversation could go long and deep, and it's interesting because I felt the pain of sitting on the manufacturing side when I was with Wilbert of you're fully reliant on somebody else to sell the great products and tools that you're building, and you can't control that conversation. So it's, you know, it is a uphill struggle and a battle. And in my ploy to death care would be, you know, the companies that you're relying on are also the companies that are building all the educational tools for you to use. And the tools are there. There's no shortage of education opportunities. There's no shortage of technology and tools to use to better serve a family. Changing the narrative of education is selling when education is helping a consumer be more informed so they have a better experience. I don't know that any funeral home wants a consumer to leave and go, I didn't know about that. And that happens more often than, oh, yeah, I knew every option before I made my decision. So that would be just my unselfish ploy to death care, is to utilize the tools that your trusted suppliers are creating so that you can better serve. So
We got one shot to get it right.
that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not going to serve that family again for probably 15 years, and a lot's going to change in 15 years. So thank you all for being on this panel. This is the second year for this panel, so super excited to see how this evolves and grows. We're going to take a quick 1-minute break, and we'll be back with a one-on-one with Jen, and then we'll be right after that a one-on-one with Billy. So stick around. We'll be back in 60 seconds.